I'm Maddie. This is going to be a session talking about the scenarios capability with Amazon Q and QuickSight. And specifically, the industry that we're going to cover today is fashion retail customer insights. But what we're going to cover in terms of data set and content can be applicable towards many use cases. So it'll be really interesting to see what the scenario outputs. And so just a brief agenda today, I'll just be talking about an introduction to Amazon Q and QuickSight. We'll do a very high-level view of the capability. Then I'm going to give some slides on the demo background of what this use case is and how it can apply to different industries. I'll do the demo, and that'll be about 30 minutes. And then I'll cover the learning resources at the very end. And then again, I'll moderate the questions in chat, but I'll answer them all at the end after the learning resources. All right. Okay, so Amazon Q and QuickSight, if you don't know already, is our generative BI features, our suite of generative BI features within Amazon QuickSight. So Q allows AI-powered dashboard authoring experience where you can build visuals using natural language and also edit visuals, as well as create calculated fields just using my natural language. It also, for readers and reader pros, just reader pros, allows you to do AI-assisted data storytelling and executive summaries, which gives you a summary of your Amazon QuickSight dashboard and allows you to create either slides or a page format of a summary of your dashboard and some insights pulled from it. It also allows you to do on-the-fly data Q&A, which is, again, used to ask in natural language to pull insights from your data and different visuals on your dashboard. And then some new things that we have down here is you can do custom apps with our AI, get unified insights through your data telling through unstructured insights with Amazon Q Business. And then today, there's the capability of scenarios. All right. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive deep into scenarios here. So the scenarios capability with Amazon Q and QuickSight allows you to have agentic analysis, which kind of allows everyone to become their own data analysts. So previously, you'd either have to use several sources of different software to be able to run these analyses. But now with Amazon Q, you can just use natural language in your scenario environment to be able to ask these deep questions, and then it'll give you a step-by-step analysis of how it's solving the question. So you can see different data sets it's creating, what calculations it's making, the visuals that are corresponding to the analysis. And then at the end, it'll give you a summary of your question or your prompt that you've asked and some good recommendations coming straight from your data. So again, if you have any questions on this resource, please ask in chat and I'd be happy to answer it at the end. And so with that, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the demo background. I know that was a very brief summary of what scenarios is, but I think it's most powerful to see it in action. So that's what I want to focus on in this session. So the background here, this is the use case that we're trying to solve. So we have a customer who's an online fashion retailer, and they are interested in understanding more about their customers and any trends in customer purchasing behavior so that they can best strategize their pricing structure for next year. So this doesn't only apply to retail, it can apply to other sectors. So if you can imagine like CPG or entertainment, a lot of just consumer insight trends as well as financial data as well. So that's kind of what this data set is going to look like. And specifically, what they're trying to solve here are two equations. So the first one is customer acquisition cost. And this is essentially the total marketing and sales expenses that the company has put in, divided by the number of new customers acquired. And then the second equation here is the customer lifetime value. So both of these things are very valuable to a company, and we're going to try to have scenarios analyze this without us doing any of the calculations. And so customer lifetime value is an equation which basically is average purchase value times the average purchase frequency times the average customer lifespan. And we'll have these data points through the data set, which I'll show in the next slide. All right, so this is the data set fields. We have unique transaction ID, transaction date, customer ID, customer name. Then we also have, sorry, my screen's blocked here, state, product ID, product cost, and then quantity bought, base price, discount applied, final price, total amount spent in the transaction, the source. So that's here. It's either going to be these three different sources, or sorry, four. There's going to be an other category, which means no marketing was applied to this purchase. Either a search category, so marketing through search was found, which led them to this transaction, text marketing, or email marketing. And then there's going to be marketing campaign involved, so that's kind of like an ID number, and then acquisition cost, and then acquisition date. And so this is generally what this data set looks like. And then just a disclaimer here that this data set is fictitiously created actually with generative AI. And these are fake names, fake transactions, and it's just for the purpose of this demo. So you can see here is these dates, the customer IDs, transaction IDs, these fictitious names, where they're coming from. So this is just in the United States, product ID, different product names. So here is what the descriptions are, how many were bought, base price, discount, all of that, and then campaign association and things like that. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen, and I'll actually run through the demo here. Again, I'm not going to be answering questions during the demo, so I probably won't be able to see chat, but please ask any questions in there, and I will try to address all of them at the end. And if I don't get to any at the end, or we have some remaining, I highly recommend to ask them in community, or I will just transfer the ones that were unanswered in the chat here, and I'll put them in community and put the answers in there. So we're going to be going through the demo, and this is kind of the entry point here. So this is what the console will look like. And then now we're going to be entering the scenarios environment. So I'm going to go ahead and enter scenarios. I'm going to click new scenario. You can either start from here or start from a dashboard. I want to skip the dashboard portion because we've done that in the past and just show you what it looks like to update a file or upload a file from your desktop. So I've created this file here. It says Python scripts because, again, it was created with generative AI. And I'm going to upload this file. So this is the data set that I've showed in the PowerPoint slide, but it's just a CSV file that I created, and it has all those field names. And what Scenarios is doing now is uploading those field names into here and analyzing the data in the back end. So now I'll type in my prompt. So I want to help get insights from my customers using seasonality information. Sorry, my typo there. And then of my data set. And we're going to understand the customer acquisition cost, like we stated before, and then the customer lifetime value. All right. And so what is happening now is the scenario is going to be running in the background, but it's going to generate some suggested questions. So this is my overview, my overall problem that I'm trying to solve. But here what you can see is Q has made these selected questions that I can explore further. So I see monthly customer acquisition trends, marketing campaigns that have been effective the most, average customer lifetime value acquired through email versus text, total sales across seasonal patterns, and then the last one is a bit more specific. So I think this first one is generally the best one to start with because it's the most broad. And so I want to see what that looks like, and then maybe I'll dig into deeper in the other ones based on what this analysis shows me. All right, so we see that Q has already started our step one. So for the show monthly customer acquisition trends from 2023 to 25, it's going to first prepare the data by focusing on those years. So that's great. And it says that it's generated this new table based on those years, 2023 to 2025, each acquisition mapped to the start of its respective month for easier trend analysis. Okay, great. And so I can see that this data set here has all of my other fields, and then this added field here, which is the month start. All right, that's great. And then we'll wait for that next step to load. But if you see also in this right-hand corner, it's telling me where I am in the scenarios analysis. And if you watch that throughout this demo, we'll see how it grows and changes based on where I am on the canvas. Okay, so step two now. Organize the data to show monthly seasonal patterns. It shows two new columns, so customer, year, month, and then season. And we can see those here, so that's great. And then this enhancement allows for both monthly and seasonal trend analysis. Okay, so that's cool. I wouldn't have maybe assumed to do it by season, so I'm glad that Q picked up on that and organized things by season, so before winter, spring, fall, summer. And then we can see here that it created this calculation of number of new customers for each month. And I think that's great because it's basically filtered down everything and created like a condensed view of these new customers, which I can analyze and see either seasonality trends or year trends. So that looks good. And let's see here if there's any ones that stand out to me. It looks like 72, which is in 2024 October, so fall time. That one has high numbers. Same with May 2025, and that's again, this is fictitious data, so we can see that's using months that haven't happened yet. And then we can see this step 4. So it's created this visual representation of how the customer base has grown over time. So some peaks include February, so I guess that's like winter time. We can see another there, and then just taking a glance at this. Step 5, analyze and visualize how seasons affect customer acquisition rates per month for each season. It doesn't look like there's much variation, but fall and summer looking a bit lower, spring and winter being higher. So that's not super helpful to me right now. I would say like this doesn't really correlate to any specific trends that I'm trying to see. So let's just move on and wait for step 6. And then again, you can see how on the bottom right, the canvas is growing, and the blocks are showing here where we are in the analysis. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. All right, so step 6 here, it's created 2 new data sets, monthly CLV, so CLV being customer lifetime value, and then we have customer CLV, so it's detailing individual customers' lifetime value. And what we see here is that the range is from that 1,700 to 2,000 number. We can see this average count here and total. All right, that looks good. And I'm just briefly glancing over this. It's not giving me full insights, which I'd rather see over text, but good for me to have if I want to send this to my team or if I want to do a deep dive into the numbers here. But I'm just going to move on. And so we see this graph here. So May 2023 seems like it had the highest. And then we see another low here in January. So that's like that winter time. And then a peak there. All right, so this is kind of the meat of the portion is this step 7. So we can see these recommendations and trends. So customer acquisition trends, monthly new customer acquisitions, 46 to 72. The average is about 58, which we saw before in each season. That checks out. There's a slight variation, but nothing significant. We saw that before with that bar chart. And then let's see. We also have here this customer lifetime value. So we have that range again. Overall average is 1897. And then these insights and recs. So optimization in season, spring months to capitalize on trend, investigate why summer has the lowest acquisition rate, which is interesting. We have CLV maximization. So we're identifying characteristics of months with higher averages. So May 2023, which is spring. And then we also have these marketing channels and campaigns that it wants us to analyze. So maybe that'll be a good next step for me for the next thread that I want to go. And then customer retention, improving retention and upselling strategies. Okay, so definitely think that's a good point out that it's making. Personalized engagement programs for customers based on their acquisition month. That could be interesting, but a big lift if it's personalized. But that is a good call out as well. Long-term trend analysis. Okay, balanced growth strategies. Months important, maintain balanced approach to steady customer growth. Customer segmentation for customer profiles based on timing and CLV. All right, and then continuous monitoring and adaptation. So set up a system for ongoing metrics or ongoing monitoring of these metrics. By implementing this, we can see the customer acquisition. All right, so that was a good start, but I think nothing super significant in that I saw to bring back to my team. But I did like that part where it said analyze more marketing campaigns. So I'm going to go down that route. And now we're going to focus on the marketing campaigns that we've been using, which again were text, other, email, and search. and see how that relates to CLV. So again, that was just from an insight that I saw in the recommendation. Maybe I didn't necessarily want to go down that route in the beginning, but I think this just makes the most sense with what we're trying to solve here, and based on what Q has told us. So it's already generated the step 1, analyze how effective each marketing campaign is in acquiring new customers. We'll see what that pulls out. But then again, I just want to point out this bottom right here now shows where we are in the scenario. So if I want to go back up the scenario and see, compare with this thread, I could and see where I am in the canvas. But let's see what this step 1 says. So it's created these assumptions here. It's assuming that without a campaign, it's just marked as no campaign. Acquisition rate is calculated as the percentage of total customer acquisitions. You can read that there. And then the summary of results is we see the highest customer acquisition rate at 52.6% for no campaign, and then spring 2024 at 21. So that kind of aligns with spring, different year, but spring from the May 2023 that we saw above. And then no campaign is kind of interesting. Definitely much higher customers acquired. So it probably looks like we don't have much marketing motion, or we're not spending enough on marketing, as we are with just organic buying through no campaign. And we can see here the comparisons, which is interesting because spring 2023 had the lowest, but spring 2024 was the second highest. And that's kind of interesting based on what we saw with the May 2023. So maybe something happened there where there's some disconnect, but we can analyze that further as well. So the step 2 now is bringing out the most valuable customers. So these assumptions are listed again, which is good to note. And then the summary is telling us that there's no direct CLV measure. So Q is going to need to calculate CLV. And then we're going to be doing that in step 3, it says here. So it's going to calculate the CLV value for each customer over their lifetime and see how this differs based on which marketing campaign brought them in. All right. And then we'll just wait for that to generate. Okay, so again, it's made new assumptions here. It says the customer lifetime value has been calculated by summing total purchases and subtracting acquisition costs. And then the no campaign category represents customers acquired through organic campaigns, which it's already stated before, but glad that we get that restated again. And then the summary of the results here is the highest CLV was the holiday 2023. The no campaign has the lowest average CLV at 1883. Okay, so that's interesting. So it looks like 2023 had a really good year, both for the May and then the holiday 2023 marketing campaign. And it's interesting here that we see that the acquisition rate was highest for the no campaign, but lowest CLV for, oops, sorry, I zoomed out there. Let me zoom back in. There we go. But lowest CLV in this category here. And then we can see that comparison. So it looks like marketing is having an effect for long-term customers. And then I want to see what the step 4 says. So it's creating a comprehensive chart for each marketing campaign. These assumptions here, correlation coefficient provides meaningful measure of relationship between acquisition and CLV. All marketing campaigns are comparable in terms of target audience overall strategy. Yep, that I guess makes sense. And then here's this bar chart indicating this as well. So the no campaign, again, we see that higher acquisition, but the lowest in terms of CLV, but nothing too significant there. All right, so step 5. So this assumptions that it's making for a summary is the effectiveness of the campaign is measured by both of those metrics. There's a negative correlation between CLV between campaigns, which is interesting. So the no campaign category has highest acquisition rate, showing strong organic growth, which is good for us as a company. Spring 2024 campaign is most effective, which is cool. Holiday 2023 campaign brings the most valuable customers with highest average CLV. Okay, so the negative correlation here is being pointed out in this number 2. And the campaign performance in number 3 is showing by ranking which ones were the best. So it looks like 2023 and 2024 had the best campaigns. So that's good for us in 2025. We can reflect on that, and moving forward to 2026, we can see which campaigns were run through those years. And then some recommendations. So it looks like holiday 2023 and spring 2024 were the best. Balanced approach for 2023 summer and 2023 spring. Looks like there was some discrepancy in those seasons that we can analyze. And then these tailored campaign strategies. So we're showing a two-pronged approach, high volume acquisition, high value customer campaigns. Interesting. And then a continuous monitoring and optimization, again, is what it said from the last thread. But let's move on and to get more specific. I like this one here. It's talking about marketing channels, so I'm moving on. This marketing channel one is going to give us what is specifically happening with that 2023 campaign. Again, the channels were the text, email, search, and other. And we'll see here what it's going to pull up. But I'm expecting it to have more of a connection than the other analyses did with how our customers were acquired and which ones are staying the longest. So maybe we'll see something higher in email or in text is kind of what I'm hoping we see. All right, so the step one here, we're focusing on the data specific to holiday 2023 campaign. And then it's generating its analysis. Okay, so it's created these assumptions. It's showing here we have our defined customer acquisition and then assumed source categories, the marketing channel, assumed correctly. Okay, and we also have social media here, which I didn't notice before. So showing the top 3 marketing channels and then the other 2. So it looks like other has the newest for new customers. Acquisition cost is 0, which makes sense. And the acquisition rate was also the highest for other. Okay, so that's interesting. That's showing more so to me that's looking for like organic growth. I guess that makes sense because the other or the no campaign category was the highest for the other ones. But besides that, we have the highest being social media, which I guess in today's day and age makes sense for marketing. And then we get this breakdown here. So it actually looks like email is performing the worst. So that's good to know. And I guess maybe that's also showing a shift in how consumers behave and ingest their media. So step 2, it's making these assumptions. Again, great, but I really just want to look at this summary. So the analysis reveals that text messaging has the highest CLV, followed closely by email. Okay, interesting again that we see that other still has the highest acquisition, but it ranks the 3rd in CLV. And we can cross-check that with this here. And then we're looking at this step 3. So it's going to create a visual representation comparing those 2 metrics. We see a weak negative correlation, again, similar to the thread above, showing that channels with higher acquisition rates tend to have slightly lower average CLVs. Okay, so that's interesting. That's a problem that we're going to need to dive deeper to as a team. But I see here that text is the highest with our average CLV, which I guess now we have to determine, does our company care more about our lifetime value with our customers or our customer acquisition? So those are good callouts for us to analyze further, and I'm glad that we got to that answer from this analysis. But let's see what it's recommending here. So it's showing the holiday 2023 campaign with channel effectiveness. And we see the summarization of the ones above, different customer lifetime values, similar, we can pull this from above here, and then the correlation between the acquisition rate and the customer lifetime value. Again, another weak one that we saw from the insight earlier. And then let's go down to these insights. So let's see what Q tells us about the company. Maybe it's showing something that I haven't already stated before, but let's see. So we see balanced performance. Text messaging shows strong balance, so that's good. Maybe we lean into more text. Other sources show acquisition, but middle of the pack for CLV. Okay, so it says casting a wide net, but not necessarily targeting high-value customers. That makes sense because it's organic growth. So maybe our marketing is having a high impact for brand. Untapped potential is email. Okay, interesting. Volume versus value, social media is effective, suggesting it may be attracting more price-sensitive or one-time shoppers. And this makes sense to me. Say like an influencer posts something, it gets viral for a bit and then kind of tapers off. I'm just making that up in this situation. And then recommendations is optimized text, enhance email marketing, refine other. So again, that doesn't really apply to this one just because it's organic growth. Improve social media quality. That makes sense. We want to go for more of a longer cycle instead of maybe fads that are happening with our marketing there. And these other ones here, which don't really want to dive into deeper, but I'm going to go ahead and kick off a parallel thread. So I want to see what other suggestions it's brought up here, and maybe we can find something that we want to dive into deeper. And again, now you can see in the bottom right, we've kicked off where we are in the scenario at the top. So now I want to go into the seasonality by months, and we're going to see some patterns here. I think this is similar to what we had before, but I want to go down this route just to show you, one, how you can do another parallel thread, but also to see if anything new insights were pulled out. So again, we're going to have this step one. It's preparing the data, and then it's hopefully going to give us a calculation with another CLV type value and a data set that is going to have an added field for that measurement. Okay, so it's created this this data set with transaction dates into standard format, and is showing customer age at time of each transaction. Okay, so that's a new metric. That looks interesting. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, cool. Oh, interesting. So that looks good. Average age in days, age in days. So that's an interesting measurement. And then we can see the year associated with the month start and acquisition date. Cool. Let's move on to the step two. So now it's creating a chart showing us total sales for each month. It's showing that January 2019 to December 2025, sales were lowest in January and highest in December. So that's great, showing that we have positive growth, which is good. And then an average monthly sales of 113K. Okay, so that's pretty good. This data set I don't really need to gloss over too much, but I do like to see this growth here. So it's great that our company is showing, it looks like exponential growth, always positive. And then we can see some low points here. So it's looking like February has low points in each year. And so again, maybe we need to boost up that winter campaign. And then let's see. All right, we'll move on to step three. Okay, so we're examining how many new customers we're gaining each month and how this trend has changed over the years. So it looks like the average acquisition of 59.5 new customers per month. And then the new number of new customers ranges from 42 to that other number. And then we see this graph here. So it looks like new customers was lowest in that month, December, pretty low in 2019. Again, winter's not looking too hot for us. And then we'll move on to the step four. So it's assuming that the maximum customer age is a reasonable approximation for lifetime value, and that makes sense. It shows a significant increase over time. Oh, and it's doing it by quarter. So that's interesting. I guess like that's a good breakup between seasonality. So we have some overlap of like Q1 and Q4 for winter months. And then it's interesting that it created this cohort size here on the right, and then annual CLV on the left. So again, huge boost in 2025, which is great. This is again fictitious, so I know that those quarters haven't happened yet. And then let's see, it's comparing the quarters here. So it's looking like lowest in the first quarter and highest in the fourth. Okay, so step five, we're showing how seasonal factors might influence the number of customers, and it's making these assumptions again. So I'm glad that while it's doing this analysis, we're getting the assumptions that Q is making in the background. And then this summary here showing that the new customer acquisition is relatively stable across seasons. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, the range isn't really that large. It's very slightly by acquisition season. And then interestingly, customer spending patterns vary based on both acquisition season and transaction season. So that's an interesting call out. And then we can see this variation here. So it looks like quarter one again has the highest, and it's also the highest for average customers and new customers. And then again, we can see that quarter four was the lowest. some more comparisons. So this is just summarizing that chart above. And then another chart showing us a different way to visualize. So we can see average spending is the highest for Q4, it looks like. And then the lowest up in this Q1. So that's interesting. And then we can see some variations here between the correlation of all of them. And then step 6, which is giving us this summary. So first here we have customer acquisition. It's giving us an overview of what we saw before. So I'm just glancing over these numbers. And then customer lifetime value, we're showing significant growth over time, which we saw, which is great. Probably also why customer lifetime value we don't know yet for 2025. Seasonality, there's a noticeable seasonal pattern customer value, which is happening in highest average is observed in Q4, lowest in Q1. This suggests that customers tend to spend more during the holiday season. 2023 holiday campaign would be a good proof point of that. And then the different acquisitions by value here, and then seasonal spending patterns. It's looking like lowest average spending was noted for customers in Q2 making purchases in Q1. Oh, okay, so that's interesting. Overall trends we see here, this is going to give us a call out that's showing that general upward trend in monthly sales. So we see that yes, we're on continual upward trajectory, which is great. Number of new customers acquired per month has remained relatively stable. This is a good number, but I think we would expect to have higher numbers. So I think that's an area can we see how we can increase the acquisition. So we can go to that other thread again and see which marketing campaigns we can increase acquisition through that. And then the last call out here is these insights suggest opportunities for seasonal marketing strategies, targeted acquisition efforts, and customer retention programs to maximize customer lifetime value. Okay, so this is all interesting. Again, like I think the comparisons between the first thread that we went down and this thread, I would need to go into deeper and to compare the numbers there. But let's just do one more here, and I will this time type in my own prompt and see what we can conclude with in this demo. So I'm saying which marketing channels were utilized in Q4 for each year, and how we can leverage successful ones. And so this is going to be similar to the holiday 2023 campaign, but I want to see if there's any changes during each year for years prior and then years after to see if it's going to be the same results. And then maybe we can imitate those results into the ones that we're planning for the future. So we'll see what Q pulls up in this first part of the analysis. And then it's got this step 1. So it's starting by focusing on Q4 data. So I would expect it's filtering the data set to just Q4. And then it's going to calculate how many customers were acquired through each channel and the total sales generated by those. Okay, so that'll be a good data set for me to see, and I'll be able to hopefully have easy comparison between each field to see which ones have clear callouts is what I'm hoping for. Okay, so again, it's having assumptions. So it's showing us that calculated channel ROI, and it assumes that it reflects the true return on marketing investment. So that's a cool new calculation that we're going to see. And then here is the ROI value. Wow, really high. Other marketing channels like search and social media show varying performance. And let's see. So one of them says infinity, and that's probably for other. Yeah, that makes sense because there's 0 there. And then the high ones, text looks like it's pretty high. Emails looking really high for 2025. Oh, but I like this visual. So this one's showing me a good breakdown of each year and then which marketing channel was associated with it. Okay, so 2020 looks the most successful. That's cool. It looks like 2021 was the least successful, which is funny. That's the year right after. And then it looks like 2024 was the second highest. And then here I'm just kind of hovering over each year so that we can see the breakdown for each channel in a more succinct way. So let me just go ahead and hover over that one as well so you can see the numbers. But I think I'll come back to that later. All right, and then this is ROI. This really is not telling us anything. They're all kind of the highest, and since it goes from a scale of 120 to infinity, that's not going to tell us anything significant. And then this step 2 here is identifying which channels have been most successful. So again, this summary, top performing channel was email with highest ROI. Okay, so that's interesting from what we saw in the other thread. And then search and social media are buried. Text messaging is another strong channel. Okay, so that's good. Text and email have that. And then customer acquisition trends. So it looks like email and text show the most consistent growth. Total sales reflected through email, showing the highest total sales. Okay, so that's interesting. The lowest average cost effectiveness, showing email and text. That's interesting as well. And then it looks like here we show some mix evolution. It's talking about relative channel performance, with email and text being the most significant. Opportunities for optimization here. While search has highest CAC, its strong sales performance suggests it reaches valuable customers. Okay, so that's interesting. Even though it costs the most, it's showing that it reaches valuable customers, which shows opportunity to optimize search strategies. So I'm going to write that down and bring that to my team as well to see how we can create a better search environment or how we can maybe lower costs for search marketing to get those higher valuable customers. And then again here, we see social media shows promise, but it may benefit from a refined targeting or content strategy to improve ROI. This kind of aligns to what we saw in the thread earlier, saying that social media had one-off transactions or one-off sales, and we want more so to have social media campaigns that give us a higher lifetime for a customer. All right, and then seasonal effectiveness. So this last part here, strong performance across channels with earlier observations. So it's showing Q4 is a really high impact quarter. And then these insights here. So first one, we see that we want to increase investment in email marketing, particularly in this quarter, given that it has the highest ROI in customer acquisition performance. So that's great. I initially said, I think before, that I didn't think email would be performing well, but we see here that email is actually the best one. So that's great for me to know. Number 2 is optimizing the text messaging campaigns to capitalize their high ROI and growth effectiveness. That makes sense here, as we just saw that text and email were the best ones in terms of that. So maybe we can look at our text strategies. And 3, refine search and social media strategies. Just briefly went over that, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to number 4. Consider multi-channel approach. Okay, so that's kind of what we've been doing. It looks like leverages strengths of each channel with email and text as primary drivers and search and social media for broader reach. Okay, so that's a good call out. And then 5, develop Q4 specific strategies across all channels to maximize the effectiveness of marketing efforts during this high value period. So in my mind, that means something about like holiday campaigns with Christmas and any of the other holidays that are happening, which usually tend to be more higher spending categories. So I think that's an interesting call out there. I can definitely bring that to my team. And then at the end here, we see by focusing on these high performing channels and optimizing lower performing ones, the company can improve overall marketing efficiency and drive stronger customer acquisition and sales for growth in Q4 and beyond.